David, what everything you said, man, is extremely powerful. And you and I, we talk about this a lot, especially, we've worked vocationally within the organization of the church.
Yep.
And we've seen certain things. And last week, there was a Major League Baseball game getting ready to start. And all the players knelt for Black Lives Matter, because black, white, they were all kneeling except one white baseball player. And he basically said, his Christian convictions would not allow him to go against the flag. And I was like, see, this is the issue. This is one of the major issues that hurts people who are like trying to understand what Christians really are, because this person is willing to put their patriotism above standing with their fellow man who was hurting and trying to say, we need to be treating everyone right the same way. It's up to God to determine, the levels of like our sins and how we're going to deal with our judgments. That's not man's thing, but we've taken upon that. But that was like, I saw so many people upset in an uproar over this because this person hid behind Christianity. And once again, a Christian making God look bad. I was enraged when I saw it, because I was like, man, okay, just say that you just don't agree with it. Don't put God in this. And then there's a politician who did this, who's claiming to be a Christian, who basically verbally assaulted another congresswoman last week. He called her, the B word, basically. And it was like, whoa, and then he apologized later, but he started talking about his Christian principles, but he really wasn't sorry. It wasn't a true apology. It was still like, you saw, and he's from Florida, and you saw his resentment towards this congresswoman who was stirring the pot up there. So it's just like, we need to see Christianity in a totally different light. I think people need to see me, you, other people just out there in the streets demonstrating God's love, because that's where it's really going to happen. That's one of my things. That's why I like volunteering on Skid Row. That's why I like helping out at the schools here in LA and doing whatever I can just to reach people who will never walk into a physical building. I don't even call that the church, because me and you, this is church right now. Just never walk in a physical building for a service.
Yeah.
That's not church. That's what man has turned it into. So yeah.
There's a powerful passage in the Old Testament in the book of Amos where God is pretty much telling his people, I despise your feasts. I despise your gatherings. I despise your coming together to sing songs, because they hadn't been a people who were showing justice. They were treating the poor in the wrong way. There were certain people that they were treating wrong. They weren't a people who were living for righteousness and justice, but they were people who had lavish celebrations. They gathered together. They praised God in song. It was almost like God was like, I'm done with just the songs. I want you to be about living out the reality of who I am to your fellow man. That's what I want. And so that we get the famous quote from, Martin Luther King, and this is where he gets it from, Amos, where he says, let justice roll like a river, like righteousness roll like mighty streams. And that's what God was saying. Like, enough with just gathering together to sing songs in your buildings. It's time to be about righteousness and justice, because the Bible actually says that's the foundation of God's throne. The foundation of his throne is righteousness and justice. And then we need to realize, before God, even as we get more into it, it's like, justice is the first justice is with him, and for all of us, it's like we ought to be weary of justice when we're all out here just saying justice, because it's not just the fact that certain people have been unjust to other people. If we want to do the reality of it, we have all violated and broken the laws in the heart of a holy God. And so when justice rolls, justice should roll down on us because of it. But I love it that in God's justice, he always remember mercy. And so the beautiful picture of God's justice is the cross, because the justice that every man deserves to get is poured out on Jesus. Because what is he doing in that moment, Rodney? He's bearing our sin.
Taking
bearing all of our inequity, all of our injustice, all of our impartiality, our bias, our racism, all of us exalting ourselves above our fellow man and thinking that we're God. Jesus bears that all, and the wrath of God's poured out on him. So justice poured out on the cross, but the cross is also the place where we meet the mercy of God. Because God's mercy, because Jesus paying the justice of God, God can now have mercy on us, and he can offer us an invitation to know him. And so, it's, you know, in the world, we should be concerned about justice, but we also got to keep in light where ultimate justice comes from.
Yes.
And the fact that it's not, you know, even with the Black Lives Matter, I think we got to be careful some.
Yes.
Because it's like it can be the thing like, we just need to change the system. White people need to, you know, turn from the wrongs that they've done. And it can make Black people feel like we all right and the system just needs to change.
Yeah.
But if we don't recognize our own, you know, sins against God and against our fellow man, then we're ready to pick up the rock and we're ready to stone somebody. And I think Jesus would say, he who was without sin, you throw the first stone. And before him, all of us should drop our rock and say, we all guilty. And if all we're just wanting is the system to change and our hearts don't change, and we get new people in positions of power, then we may feel like I'm in a position to get you back now.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't wrong me for all these years. You didn't treated me that way. Now I'm in a position to do the same. But we need to be asking God to do some heart changes on people in our society. So that even if then the system does need to be changed. So I believe that.
Yeah.
But what makes the system corrupt? The heart of man. So we change the system and the heart of man doesn't change. You change the system from one thing to another system and it's still corrupt. But if we allow God for each of us to change our hearts, then I'm able to be in a place where maybe before I wasn't invited to the table, now I am at the table. And as I am at the table and in a position of leadership, I don't use it to get you back. I actually use it to bless you, even though you might curse me.
Yeah.
I use it to love you, even though you might have hated me. And I'm going to use it to pray for you, even though you might have persecuted me in the past. And so I think as we're dealing with issues of justice, you know, we also have to realize it's not just one segment of the society that's broken.
Yes.
We're all broken. We're all broken. And we all need the reconciliation that comes from God. And until we experience that, we'll never experience true reconciliation with one another.